My 5,000 euro house just keeps on expanding. My neighbors have been helping me every night for the past week to get this concrete pad ready, and now it's finally dry. We used this special paint on the foundation to waterproof it, waited one more day for that to dry, and then on another cold, foggy morning, it was time to get to building. Introducing Vlado and Tomislav. They work with a company called Findom Construction, which specializes in building these small wooden houses. And they're gonna raise this one completely from the ground up before lunchtime. I decided to work with Findom because the building is made of real wood. I didn't want any plastic or composites. And it goes together super fast because everything is pre-cut. Starting with this small frame, they work their way around the perimeter with these rubber mallets just pounding the new pieces into place. These guys have obviously built a lot of these. Neither of them spoke English, so they just kind of did their own thing, which was good. I just sat back and watched all of our hard work over the last week start to pay off. So they've got the height down. This took like 45 minutes. Next, it was time to put on the roof, securing the structure with 3 cross beams. It was starting to take its final shape. It took about 30 minutes to get all of the boards on one side of the roof, and another 30 minutes for the other side. They cleaned everything up by adding some flashing to the edges, and a little finishing touch at the peak. For now, they're just covering the roof with foil. We'll add metal in the next few days. Finally, it was time to start on the floor. They anchored the building to the concrete, put down the first few boards, and decided to take a quick break. No problem. In the meantime, I went over to check on another project that was happening at the same time. My neighbor Dario was continuing on his excavation mission. I asked him to carve out 2 new sections of flat ground next to the deck. That's a lot of dirt, my guy. Seriously, guys, if you're in the area, his company is called Iskopi Labash, and you should check him out. All right, it still needs a little bit of smoothing over, but that way to the house, this way to a parking lot. Hey, this is where we're gonna park the cars rather than just right on the trail. And right next to the deck, this space is clear for a fire pit. Deck, fire pit, parking lot. Anyway, back to the storage building. The floor is in, and they were working on the trim. Though this wooden floor is beautiful, it's also going to be very hard to clean, so I think I'm actually going to put some kind of a linoleum or something over it. They built the door frame and screwed it into place, and then added both doors. It took them a total of 4 hours to build this house, including their break. Because the main house has no storage at all, this is a much-needed addition. If you want a wooden building for yourself, go to the link in my bio and check out findom.hr and use my code JUSTICE5 for 5% off a house. But I definitely didn't this morning. Yesterday, the guys from Findom built this shed from the ground up. And today, it was time for the finishing touches. I was on my own in the morning, staining the entire interior. I decided to use the same color I did for all of the other wood on this project. It took forever, but when I finally finished with that, I decided to put in a linoleum floor. It wasn't a perfect match, but it's all I could get my hands on in such short notice. You can always tell when I did something because of the expert precision. Luckily, precision wasn't necessary. I covered up all of the edges with this trim, and it was looking really good. There was still a lot to do today, but very quickly, I need a break. I got a package, which I already emptied out on my desk, from My Protein. They sent me these delicious wafers and protein bars to eat. They also sent me their Impact Whey Protein. This is the chocolate smoothie flavor. And their Raspberry Lemonade Impact Hydrate powder. That's pretty good. Not only did they send me this stuff, but literally every piece of clothing I'm currently wearing is from their brand. Check out the link in my bio and use this code for a discount on almost every product. My first guests of the day arrived with all of the supplies needed for the roof and the gutters. Of course, their van wasn't going to make it up my muddy hill, so we had to strap the roof panels to the top of my car. These guys' names are Tomo and Ivica. They came with Findom to finish what they started. First, they built these gutters and hung them on each side, and then did the flashing on the front and the back. Apparently, this color of metal roof and gutters is really difficult to get your hands on, but I wanted it to match the same as the house. In the end, I think it looks really great. Finally, they added the downpipes, and their work was finished. But they weren't ready to go home yet. Ivica offered to help me hook up the electricity, and I said yes. And while he was busy doing that, Tomo decided he was just gonna stain the front of the house. We added one big light in the center of the room, and one automatic light outside. Yeah! Nice work.
You can sleep here.
Gentlemen, it looks amazing. Or at least it did from the front. I still had the back and both sides to finish. Also, there were wires hanging everywhere. Enter Michael, Lucian, and Patrick number 2. They were going to help me stain the rest of the outside and get those wires put in check. The wires were easy. The staining, that took a little bit longer. It went after dark, but they were prepared. When that was finished, we started to grab the tools and supplies and everything from the deck and put it in the shed. Now that was a task that ended up taking most of the night, but it was so worth it. It's done! Look how clear this is! The deck has never been so clear and finished. Oh no. A few weeks ago, my neighbor Chris and I built these makeshift stairs, but they weren't quite finished. So we tore the boards off, sanded them, and rebuilt them again. Then, with the help of my girlfriend Angie, who was visiting for a little while, we cleaned the dirt off of them and stained them properly. While she was working on that, I finished up staining the edges of the deck. I was putting this off for a long time, but it looks really good now. I decided when it dried, I was going to put down this mat to keep people from tracking mud onto the deck. Because I'll be honest, it is not very easy to clean. My other issue is with what the locals call smelly martins. They're absolutely everywhere when the sun comes out. Oh my gosh. And if you squish them, they don't just smell, but they leave stains wherever you do it. I wasn't sure what to do with them, so I was really happy when I got a sponsor from the company Egro Pro Egro, who provided me with the spray I needed to get rid of them. This is their Neo Alpha Plus Turbo Spray, which doesn't just prevent the bugs, but it gets rid of them on site. It's long-lasting, odorless, and leaves no stains. They also sent me a concentrated version, a rodent repellent, a hornet repellent, and an ant repellent. If you're like me and could use any of these products, tap the link in my bio and use my code to get 10% off. The next visitor I had was Tilemeister Deon from Italco. He's preparing to put tiles on all of these stairs and this walkway. I had some neighbors tell me I was crazy for putting tiles on these outdoor stairs, and they thought I should just leave them bare concrete, but I really think the tiles are going to make a big difference, and it's going to be worth it. But it is a multi-day process, so we're just going to have to wait and see how it looks. This next problem has been staring me in the face for more than a week, taunting me: the hot tub. We cleared this space for the hot tub more than a month ago, and finally we're getting to work on it. Some of the local boys came up while I was working and offered to help me move this dirt. Of course, I wasn't going to turn them down. I always underestimate the amount of dirt. This is a lot of dirt. My neighbor Patrick cleared the holes, and finally, we were ready to pour concrete. My neighbor Kresho made sure that we were loaded up with water, and my neighbor Mladen made sure that everything was marked properly. We built a small ramp for the wheelbarrows, and then Michael, Lucian, and Patrick number 2 came to pour. The difficulty is they gotta go from concrete all the way down there, around the house, and up to there. I really wish there was an easier way to do this, but there's just not. These pathways are too narrow. So, just like everything else on this project, it's about manpower and brute force. While they were working on that, I was coming up with a better solution for the future. I'm going to build a bridge right here. It is extremely annoying having to walk all the way around the house to get to the deck, so this will be the official shortcut. Here's hoping after today, we will never have to pour concrete again. This house didn't have a bathroom, so we built one from scratch. And the city is not bringing me water anytime soon, so we're gonna use these big blue tanks. They're going to deliver the building's water supply. And Luca the plumber is the man to hook it up. With the water line hooked up on the outside, it was time for the most important part. My new sponsor Grundfos sent me this state-of-the-art water pump. They're low noise and energy efficient Scala 2. The most amazing thing about this project is I know very little about this kind of stuff, but I have so many viewers who are so smart. Like the guys at Grundfos, the world's largest water pump manufacturer, reaches out to me and goes, "Hey, you need water? We've got a solution for that." It's easy to install, all-in-one system, gives water pressure to up to 8 taps at once. With everything set up, we manually filled up the tanks with water. Got me kind of scared. Whoa, whoa! Whoa! We got a leak. We sprung a leak. Yeah, whoever hooked up these water lines didn't do a very good job. It was me. Luca had to spend a little extra time cleaning up all of my mistakes, and then... No, it's yes! Turn on. Hey, we've been using water bottles for months. Woo!
I've got a pretty particular setup here, but this pump works on all sorts of domestic applications.
I'm gonna have hot water and everything. I gotta clean up in here.
Next, my neighbor Chris and I were going to chop down some trees.
Don't worry, guys. He's a trained professional, right?
And I am an expert cameraman. We got one more tree down before reinforcements arrived in the form of Michael, Lucian, and Patrick number 2. We had a few smaller trees to take down. These were all behind the deck, causing a major nuisance.
Ay, ay, ay.
We're also trying to expand the yard back here. I'm thinking maybe it will be a garden or a vineyard, or maybe I'll just plant some grass. But no time for that. My neighbors Patrick and Bladen had arrived with gravel. I honestly was amazed their tractor made it up this high considering the muddy conditions. But this space for the hot tub needs to be finished, and fast. Rain and snow is on the way. Of course, this took hours to complete, and we ended up working until it was dark outside. But it's all gonna be worth it in the end. It was going to rain hard the next day, so I decided to put our water tanks to good use. This is just a temporary solution.
I knew I should have been an engineer. That's it. That's not going anywhere. Look at that. I don't know, guys. This very well may be my masterpiece.
It did rain all night. The next morning, I caught a nasty cold and had a lot of cleaning up to do.
Oh, it's gonna be a long winter.
I knew it was coming, but I didn't think it was going to be this much.
I'm sick. It's cold. But work is not done yet. We're not done yet.
Yeah, I was going to be working inside today. I had to make one quick trip into town to get supplies, and then I was locking myself in the house. Let me introduce you to this bedroom wall. And to Daria, a skilled artist from Ukraine. We met through her husband, Igor, who did the micro cement on my bathroom. And she told me she was willing to do any kind of art piece I wanted. So I asked her to do something to fill up this large blank wall. She painted everything completely by hand over the course of 4 days. And when she finished, my room was a giant mess, so I had to clean that up.
Now that is more like it. I don't know what I'm gonna do with all of this stuff, but you know.
Alright, it's time for the big reveal. It's better than I ever could have imagined. It really captures the vibe of the place and blends perfectly with the color of the room. And the vibes from it while watching TV at night is just amazing. Do me a favor and go follow Daria on Instagram. And if you want her to paint you something, send her a DM. On to the next, less finished room of the house, the basement. My neighbor Chris decided he would take on the job. That's going to involve patching all of these channels. I did not know he was capable of such things, but apparently he is. He's a handy guy. After patching everything up, it was on to the ceiling, which is really not pleasant to look at.
So you're telling me it's not level?
I had to step away for a little bit, and when I came back, he had covered the entire thing with this styrofoam. He also significantly cleaned up both windows and the door. Now it was my turn to tackle a room. The bathroom.
I completely tore apart my bathroom. Yay!
Basically, I made some mistakes when I put everything together the first time, but I fixed all of that quite quickly. Then I had to clean up the very, very muddy floor I created. That involved lots of sweeping and scraping and scrubbing, and then I was halfway done. By the time I was all the way done, it was late. Now that I've got running water, I decided I would do my first load of laundry ever.
I just can't stop watching it.
Then it was time to experience something I had been working towards since I moved in.
It's warm. It's warm right away. I've lived here 5 months, and this is the first hot shower in my own house.
I got a hot tub and I don't have any place to put it, so we're building a platform right here. The men for the job are my neighbors Patrick and Mladen. This thing is going to be made entirely out of wood. They start off by building the frame. They use a ratchet strap to get everything nice and tight before they screw both ends down. The outside of the frame is finished, but what's going to go inside? More wood. They use these clamps to hold the beam in place.
It's very clever. I've never seen that before.
Then they use a ratchet strap to make sure both ends are tight before screwing it in. Then they add another beam and another one. Whoa. Tighten everything down onto the concrete piers and chop the top of those threads off. That is a sturdy looking frame. Now it's time to add the floor. This hot tub is going to be heavy. It's going to weigh more than 1,000 kilos when it's full of water and people. Unfortunately, they only got about 3 boards in before it got dark and they had to call it a night. But that doesn't mean work was over. Just as it started to get dark, 2 new guys, Leon and David, came to set something up.
Aquifer water softener, S550. And 2 aquifer particle filters. You guys walked into a bit of a mess here.
Now, Aquifer reached out to me when they saw how I was getting my water. I'm not hooked up to the city, so I'm only getting water from the rain.
I leave for a few minutes, come back, they bring the big boy out.
This thing turns hard water into soft water, which is going to protect things like my water heater, my washing machine, and most importantly, the hot tub. I love getting sponsors like Aquifer. They just make my life so much easier.
So we have the pump, which goes to a filter, which goes to the softener, which goes to another filter, which goes to the UV fancy thingamajig, which goes out into the world. Is that right?
Yeah.
Look them up if you think that they can help you too. The next day, there was rain. Lots and lots of rain. I still haven't properly set the gutters up because I don't have the parts, but this needs to stop. My neighbor Chris was able to use the parts we had to at least protect the buildings. You may wonder, how can he just stand out in the freezing rain like that? It's because he's wearing a bearskin jacket. And at that exact moment, so was I. And if you want a jacket like the ones Chris and I are wearing, or like the one I was wearing after the rain stopped, tap the link in my bio or go to this link, myhousehoodie.com.
They're doing up to 80% off on jackets only this weekend. That is a sweet deal. Don't miss out. Okay, back to the platform. Another day, more boards. They were putting this thing together at lightning speed. And then it got dark again. But it didn't matter. This was taking too long and we had light, so let's just finish it.
Brilliant.
With all the floorboards finally down, it was time to fill up those screw holes with wood filler. The next morning, it was looking pretty good. Just a little bit more sanding and staining, and we're gonna see if it can hold a hot tub.
Remember, the house has basement, first floor, attic. That means 3 AC units.
But first, something needed to be done in the attic. I was heavily criticized in the comments for picking this blue color, but those people didn't know about Daria. She's going to paint a beautiful artwork on the ceiling and these slanted walls. Because of their angle, nothing can be hung on these walls for decoration, so painting directly onto them is a perfect idea. It took her about 2 days of painting, but when you climb up that ladder, it just has that wow factor. No matter what the sky looks like outside, you can always see a beautiful sky up here. Any blue haters want to change their minds? Next, my neighbor Chris and I had a little bit of work to do in the basement. He added this styrofoam on the ceiling, but now the refrigerator wasn't going to fit, so I ended up cutting a little hole for it. Next, he added netting and plaster to smooth everything out, and it was enough work for that day. The next morning, the AC guys had arrived with a truck full of stuff, which of course we had to carry down by hand because the trail was so muddy that no cars could make it.
This is always a good way to spend the morning. Bruh.
Now it was time to get to installing. These guys are with Hisense, a new sponsor who wanted to make my life more comfortable.
How many AC units have you installed?
Hundreds, millions.
Ne pričati engleski?
No.
I've been waiting for a sponsor like Hisense for a while. Here, the summers are hot and the winters are cold.
Ever since the weather turned, I've just been using a small space heater, one room at a time. But actually, these larger units are more energy efficient.
Wow!
They're quiet, they work all the way down to negative 20 degrees, they're smart.
Have loads of different modes, and they're self-cleaning. This house is less than 50 square meters. Having 3 full AC units like this seems like overkill, but these rooms aren't connected to each other at all, so they all need their own unit. This is serious equipment, and a serious process. I couldn't have done it without Hisense. With all of the holes drilled in my facade, they started to set up the outdoor units. I was initially thinking that this would kind of ruin the look of the outside of the house, but actually I think it makes it look more modern, sophisticated, almost like it's a real house now.
Oh! There's life! I can feel the convenience.
This is the test.
Good job, gentlemen! That's it!
The day started with an anticipated delivery of the kitchen, which is going to go in the basement. My neighbor Patrick and I loaded up every last piece in a trailer and started to drive it up the trail. But the mud was terrible, so we had some difficulties.
That is a bra moment.
Hopefully we'll have it installed soon. In the meantime, I decided to put the final touches on my bedroom. Look at this poor rug. The floor was extremely dirty. There were scuffs and chips in the new paint, overpainting that was just never cleaned up, and lots of random stuff everywhere. This mud had gotten so caked on, I scraped it off with a razor blade and swept up everything as best as I could. I mopped, and then I started filling in these chips on the wall. But once I did that, I saw there was a lot of pitting and just general unevenness, and so I got a little bit perfectionist on it. I created a lot of extra work for myself, but these walls are going to be as perfect as possible. Once they dried, I sanded them down and painted them over with the little bit of extra paint I had left. I hung up this mirror on this section of wall, and then the final thing to tie this room together, and maybe you've seen it here in the background, is this little dresser. Because this is such a small room, I keep clothes in it, and food for myself, and food for the cat, which is why he comes up to me every time I try to open it. I found it in exactly the style and dimensions I wanted on Favi. It's a furniture and home products search engine. They save you time by combining a bunch of different furniture from a bunch of different websites into one place. I didn't just get the dresser, I actually got these chairs too. They came from completely different manufacturers, but I found them both on Favi. Thanks to them for being a sponsor. Now for the ultimate reveal. Wait, do you remember day one? You couldn't even get in the front door. There were so many thorns and vines, we had to cut them back. But the first time I saw this room, I saw potential. It had neon blue paint, had been abandoned for years, and was home to only spiders and mice. I got rid of all of the old furniture and cleaned up the best I could, set up a camping bed, and that was my home for weeks. Sleeping was not easy in those days, but I was able to bring new life into this space. But it wasn't just me. It was Martin who installed the floor. It was Igor and Patrick who helped me build the furniture. It was BK Rug who installed the windows and doors. It was Yaka and Nates who brought me electricity. It was Alan who helped me do some remodeling and plastering. It was Daria who painted this beautiful artwork, and Hisense who installed the air conditioning. And many other neighbors, sponsors, and viewers who have supported me through all of this process. I can finally say that this room is done. No more construction, no more remodeling. It is finished. I might hang up a picture or two, but this is the last you'll probably see of it.
But there are still other rooms to do. I promised I wouldn't shave or cut my hair until the house was completely done. I don't know what day we're on, but I used to look like this. I gotta change that picture.
Anyway, in the morning, I was joined by Patrick number 2 and Michael, who are going to help me clear out this forest. This is the area behind what will soon be the parking and the fire pit. I've seen some concern about deforestation here, but this actually used to be a vineyard. It wasn't a forest before, and these trees are all very young. We're just trying to cultivate the land and make sure that no trees fall on any cars that might be parked down there. I swept the frost off of the new platform we built, and we put a fresh coat of stain on it. So finally, it was ready for the hot tub.
Oh my gosh, they're doing it.
My neighbor Patrick joined us, but the 4 of us could not push it by hand.
We moved it like 2 meters.
So Patrick pulled out the quad, and we moved it that way. For once, the mud was actually helping us. Once it was in place, we unpacked it and pushed it up on the platform.
Oh, I didn't really get to film that, but oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's up.
This was a long time in the making. I'm super excited to try this thing out, but first, I had a trip that I needed to go on. And this trip required clothes that weren't stained, ripped, or covered in mud. So I had my new sponsor, Mana, help me out with some clothes. They're a retail clothing outlet with locations in Slovenia, Croatia, and Serbia. They invited me to come in and just pick out whatever I wanted. So I grabbed a few casual outfits that I thought looked good on me. I'm not much of a fashion icon, but they had plenty of clothes that I thought looked really great. I especially have to point out their new red collection, which came out this year. A lot of these clothes are part of that collection. Thanks to them for being a sponsor. Armed with new clothes, I ran off to the airport and ended up flying to Brussels, of all places. I was invited by an MEP who wanted to show me how European democracy works. This obviously isn't a political page, but I can tell you that in the one day I was there, I learned a lot and had a great time. If you were wondering about the delay between episodes, that's the reason. When I got back, the hot tub experts had arrived at my house to set this thing up. And I'm really glad I had the experts out for this. They gave me a lot of great information and made sure everything was working properly. We hooked up a long hose and started to fill up the hot tub with the rainwater I had collected.
I don't know why I'm so fascinated by this, but it's just It's so cool.
With everything hooked up safely and properly, the hot tub was ready for nothing.
Well, we didn't quite get it filled all the way, so we're gonna have to wait until it rains next. Here we go.
Sorry.
Now I don't have any running water for drinking or hygiene, and there's a giant mess everywhere, so I had to clean that up. I can't wait to try this thing.
Gotta get this kitchen installed, hot tub filled, and sticks dealt with.
My house and all other structures are built onto the side of this really steep hill. It used to be full of trees, but now all of those trees are pulled out, and there's been a lot of concern about it just sliding down and crushing everything. Well, today we're going to start trying to fix that problem. First, by clearing off all of the debris, vines, and old trees we cut down. After that was done, my neighbors Patrick and Mladen brought up their excavator to start getting rid of the debris.
Oh!
They were actually going to completely reshape this entire area, leveling out the ground and making room for new retaining walls.
Look at how much we excavated. Here.
While he was working on that, the guys from Metalco came to finally put tiles on these outdoor steps. Now, this was actually scheduled to happen a long time ago, but cold weather has made it exceptionally difficult to get this done. Of course, I always appreciate these Metalco guys. They are super skilled. And I gotta be honest, I always get a little emotional when we make big progress like this. The steps have been bare concrete for a long time, and I just can't believe they're actually looking this good. Or at least will be looking this good. They need to dry now. It's going to take a few days because of the cold. The next visitors I had up the hill were from Siga Protective Equipment. They hand-delivered a box of all sorts of things that were going to keep me safe while I work.
That's cool. Smart hat.
These shoes.
Yeah, with ankle protection.
Looks sweet.
I've just been working with what I already had, so I'm really happy to have some professional safety equipment. They didn't just bring stuff from me, they brought stuff from my neighbors too, who have been helping me work on this project.
That was a really nice thing for them to do. I've been using their equipment for a little while, and you've probably seen my neighbors wear their equipment over the last few episodes as well. Thanks to Siga for being a sponsor and giving us what we need to stay safe.
Anyway, I was so close to finishing this patio area next to the house, but I started to see a mudslide as kind of a big threat. So a retaining wall will be built here. So that involves pulling the gravel back and digging into the hillside. This wall needs to be 1.5 meters thick and 3 meters tall. We don't have enough room for that, so basically we need to take out part of the hillside so we can actually build the retaining wall. And while we were doing our section by hand, the excavator was getting busy digging its own section for a retaining wall.
So the house has effectively 3 levels of terrain. Level 1 is where the house is. There's going to be a wall here. It's going to wrap all the way around the house. Level 2 is where I'm standing now. There's going to be a wall all the way along here. There's going to be a wall there. It's going to cut off. And level 3, that's where the cars will park. It's going to require a lot of gravel and a lot of people. Follow this page to see what happens next.